Welcome to the Aftermath. I'm Zane and I'll be your guide through this video. If you're watching this, you've probably been cast as one of the survivors of the Aftermath. Aftermath is a mega game about tea, biscuits and the apocalypse. There's been an near extinction event which wiped out 99 or possibly 99.9% of the population, but you're one of those that survived. Whether that was through dumb luck, clever organisation or sheer grit and will, doesn't matter, because you're one of the survivors. In this game, you will explore how to make your group grow and improve and possibly rebuild the world, but you'll need to struggle against its very survival. Aftermath is set across multiple Ordnance Survey maps. Each region will have its own map area that it will be operating within. Each region will have 3 survivor teams, 1 silver team. As a survivor team, you can interact with anyone in any region. It's assumed that you have radios that you can talk to people on. They seem to have survived. How did you get here? Although the event itself doesn't really matter, but just to give you some context, about 14 weeks ago, there were total blackouts. Wherever you happened to be at the time, you woke up, there was nothing. No phone signals, no lights, nothing. Some cars didn't seem to work, others did. There was no real communication. You did hear, though, that eventually some communications were coming through, that there were mixed messages. Some things were telling you to stay where you were and wait further instructions. Others were encouraging those that were vulnerable or needing assistance to make their way to their nearest evacuation centre. What also happened was the weather changed. Storms started drawing in. The days were dark. It was not pleasant to be outside. You and your groups probably hunkered down where you were, grabbed supplies from whatever you could, but very, very, very quickly rioting started. People started panicking. Rumours of disease rapidly infecting people shot everywhere. And then that weather got worse. Extreme storms, torrential rain, high winds, and then sub-zero temperatures rolled in. It was so bad that it was impossible to go outside safely. Those that went out rarely came back, and you hunkered down. That all started 12, 14 weeks ago. But now the storms are subsiding, and you've got a chance to emerge, see what's happened, make contact with some of the other people out there, find out what's going on, and hopefully rebuild before more storms come. The game itself is cut into a series of turns, each turn being about 30 minutes, and each turn being split into a planning and action phase. The planning phase is about 10 minutes, where you will sit down at your table and come up with what you're going to do for the next turn. That will end with a radio broadcast from Freedom Radio, a pirate radio station trying to give you the truth about what's going on out in your region and all the other regions. Then there's the action phase, and this is when you'll hand your special tasks to the facilitators. You'll go to the scavenging area, go and talk to other players, work out what you're going to do, and mostly negotiate. At this end of the action phase, there will be a broadcast from local radio, so BBC will give you some updates and announcements from the local radio and local government. What should you read? Well, for you guys, read your Survivor's Guide to the Aftermath and your team brief. That's it. Give them a good read before coming along. Even if you've watched this video, I suggest going and reading those. If something in the book contradicts what I'm saying here, go for what's in the book. So, planning phase. Planning phase, you and your other 2 teammates should come to your specific table. Your table will be something like this. You will have an OS map to look at, to plan with. You will have your camp map, which will denote size of your population, any issues, what your food and water is, and have some local tasks. You'll have a load of group cards They'll probably have the names and some background of your group on. These ones are blank. And you will have some equipment cards and experts. There are 8 different equipment cards in a random order: clothes, tools, medicine, weapons, transport, animals, luxuries, and production tools, production equipment. I'll talk about those in a bit more detail in a minute. So first thing when you come to your table for your planning phase is to make sure you meet the needs of your group, your team. So it's been simplified down to your population is your group. I realise the thing says times 8, that's a lie, it should be times 6, but they've been printed now. So number of groups you have is the important thing. So this team has 5 groups. The amount of food you need is 3 times the amount of groups. The number of water is 2 times the number of groups. The number of fuel you need is 1 times. You also can't exceed your shelter size. So if your group gets bigger than your shelter, you will either need to move or extend. So let's meet these needs. We need 15 food. Unfortunately, we're starting here on 13 food. We don't actually have enough food, and we've got no food in the storerooms. We have a couple of options here. We could either ration, so give less food to everyone, or we can give enough food to some of them and ration it just for a couple of groups. I'm sure they won't take that personally. For this example, we are going to ration it for everyone, but just basic rationing. So in the rule book, you will see that rationing on page, he says scrolling down to find the page number, page 7 has a little bit about food. So you can give them 2 each and they'll become hungry. That's fine. So we're going to give them 2 each instead, so just 10. So we move our little tracker down to 3. We've got 3 food left. We then actually make sure everyone's got a hungry sticker. So if you don't have a sheet of stickers here, there'll be one on the scavenger table. There'll be a sheet there. Peel them off, put them on your area that says, has to ungroup that again. Never mind. I've got that stuck there. You put your sticker on the negative conditions bit. Every negative condition reduces your card limit that group can use and carry. So now that they're hungry, they're reduced to only being able to carry and use up to 8 cards each. That'll become important when you're out scavenging or doing other tasks. So we've done that with that. For water, 10. Okay, water's a little easier. We're starting with 33. We just move that down by 10 to 23. And then fuel, we've got enough. We're going to not make people go cold, and we'll move that down. So clearly we're in desperate need in this turn of getting fuel and food. Also here you'll see there are some camp issues. Your facilitator will update these, but you should be thinking about how you're going to approach these. So this camp is currently food's going missing and no one's owning up, probably because we keep rationing them. There's no filtration for water, so although there's lots of water, there's a slight worry that it's unfiltrated and it might not be good. And the basement of their building is flooded. Now normally, or you may also have cards in your storeroom, but for this example I don't have these, so don't worry about that. Once you've met the needs of them, you get to assign your groups to various different tasks. Now there are 3 in your team and there aren't actually any specific roles, so please listen and talk to each other about deciding what you're going to do with your groups. If you feel the need to, you can divvy them up between you, or work as a group and to allocate them. But all of you have your very own special card, special task, which you can do with as you wish, but you will need a group assigned to do that. So I suggest you make sure you each get at least one group to do your special actions, but you should also discuss what you're going to do as your special actions. So what can you do as tasks? First is upkeep. Anyone here will cook, clean, build things and protect the camp and use any production equipment. So when we were looking at equipment, some equipment is called production. When it's equipped during upkeep, it will do what it says. So this one says alcohol still, you'll gain 1 liquid fuel or 1 alcohol when it's equipped. So this lovely team has got an alcohol still. So they're going to be sensible and they're going to put a group down for upkeep. They're going to equip the alcohol still. They don't really need to equip anything else, but they're going to equip the chef. So teams can also have a specialist or expert attached to them in the same way as equipment, but they can only have 1 active specialist. So this team are now being led by a chef and are operating an alcohol still. So they're doing cooking and making sure the alcohol still's going. R&R, this is where people can recover from certain conditions. There is a sort of cheat sheet. So we've got hungry, basically you just need to pay 1 food to remove it. So if you decide you're worried about these ones starving, we can put them in R&R and hopefully give them some food during the action phase to bring them back. So maybe that we'll go out and get some food. I'm going to assign someone out scavenging. They're going out scavenging, which can be dangerous. So let's look at what we might give them. I'm going to give them a set of warm clothes. Some bicycles. Equipment is considered enough for the entire group. So although it shows just 1 bicycle, the equipment is actually enough bicycles or whatever the equipment is for the group. The group is roughly 6 people. But don't get hung up on the exact number, but it's about 6 people. Let's just move my special task over there. We'll give them bikes, rain clothes. They probably need some sort of weapon. They have bows or trained dogs. So we're going to give them bows because they're going out scavenging. We'll probably put this other team out scavenging as well. Unfortunately, they don't have much, but we're going to give them. We've got an ex-police officer that might help them out. So they're going to be led by ex-police officer. You'll notice that police officers and experts cards don't count towards the population or don't change the food needs, so you don't need to worry about them when you're calculating food. Back to these, and then we've got our special tasks. So we've got 1 group left for our special tasks. They need a minimum of 1, but you can assign more than 1 group to a special task. You can assign as many as you want, but each group has to obey the rules of being equipped. Each group can only be equipped with 1 type of equipment, so they can only operate 1 transport, 1 type of tools, 1 type of weapons, wear 1 type of clothes, etc. per turn. When writing your special tasks, try and be as specific as possible. So raid warehouse is fairly generic, probably wants to be raid. Why are we raiding a warehouse? Probably should go into that. Raid warehouse, looking for food. We're really hungry. We desperately need food. So just going to backtrack 1 second. Special task. Hopefully you've had some time to have a look at the map. Scour the OS map. You are welcome to use Google to get more information. Find out things on the map and in the local area, and I'm going to say we've spotted that here is what looks like a distribution centre for some supermarkets, Tesco's. There, and we think might be a high chance of there actually being some food left. No one else has been able to get out yet, so hopefully we'll be the first. So gonna go for that Tesco's, get food, because in this instance incredibly close to starving out the entire group. I'm going to send some things out with them. Train dogs. Oh, look at this. Got some lovely dogs. So, have a nice dog. What else have we got left? Construction tools. Want to be careful with overloading, because the more cards we give them will reduce the amount of stuff they can bring back. So we've given them 2. They now have got a maximum of 8 card limit. That's kind of the load limit of how much they can carry. So that gives them 6. Hopefully that'll maximise how much stuff they can carry back. Make sure we put our grid reference in properly. Do check how to write a grid reference. And then pick your approach. So for your approach, you can choose risky, standard or cautious. Risky means that they will take risks to achieve it. They will happily, or not happily, but they will endanger themselves to make sure they achieve their objective in their task. Standard, they'll do it, but they will not overly extend themselves, but they will try and do it. And cautious is they will back out if it becomes too dangerous. They will look after themselves before the objective. For these ones, we are very hungry, so we're going to go for risky, because if these guys come back a bit hurt or something, that's okay, as long as we get food for everyone. And they will then go inside your envelope. So pop all of those things inside the envelope and give it to your facilitator, who will take it away during the action phase to resolve it. And your facilitators will all go off into a huddle during that phase, and they will sort out the resolutions for your tasks and work out what's happened and come back to you. Right, we now hit a broadcast from Freedom Radio and then go into the action phase. There are 3 players, and as I said earlier, you don't have specific roles, so you might want to split up what you're doing. You don't have to do the same thing every turn, but my recommendation is that one of you goes off to speak to some of the other survivors. One of you stays at your base, or your table rather, to greet other people and talk to them. One of you needs to take your groups assigned to scavenging task over to the scavenging table. There's a scavenging table for each region. On the scavenging table you will see rural, urban scavenging. You will also see the wider policing mat and a handy scavenger task flowchart to help you remember what to do. First thing is to decide whether you're going urban scavenging or rural scavenging. Urban scavenging, you'll find more tools and equipment and things like that, and preserved supplies, whereas rural scavenging is more about hunting and foraging, but you will also come across various bits of more rural equipment and tools and stuff. Once you've decided whether to go rural or urban, you need to decide your approach. A cautious approach is safer. You draw less cards, but you discard down. You have more options, so you're less likely to come into contact with dangerous events, but you're less likely to take home many cards. Standard approach, you take a few more cards, get to discard one, so you get a few cards, less likely to take some very bad events. Risky approach, you get 5 cards and you don't discard any, you have to deal with everything you're sent at you, so it could be a bit more dangerous, a bit more risky, some would say. We're desperate for food, so we're going to go risky approach, rural. Other teams, the other 2 teams in your region, will be placing their groups wherever they see fit. I've forgotten to put the card draw back in its place. Now everyone's assigned their groups to the right approach. We then start drawing cards. It's no particular order, doesn't really matter who puts their groups where when, but generally in some form of order, but always starting with risky. Draw your cards. So risky approach draws 5 cards, and ta-da, we have 5 cards. In this very random draw, we've happened to just get 1 event and some supplies and equipment. Very lovely. We then have to deal with all the events we've drawn. If we were taking a standard or cautious approach, we could have chosen to discard one of these, but we would have obviously had less cards to take home. So in this event, if I zoom in, most events have two options. This one, you can choose to fight or flee. You can only fight if you have weapons, and you can flee even if you don't have transport. So underlined ones are usually a equipment or supplies, and then you'll see in red is a condition, and in bold will be another keywords. So this one, if we want to fight it, we need to have a weapon. What did we come equipped with? Oh, magically they're equipped with both transport and a weapon. They have bicycle and simple improvised weapons. So they've got both options. We could run away on our bicycles, but we would gain tired in this event, which we probably don't want to do right now. And we have improvised weapons, which seems like the easiest choice. So in this discard event, if you have weapons, you may hunt them, gain tired and 2 food. So if we've got weapons, we can hunt them as well. So in this case, we're going to say, yeah, let's take that one and use it for the food. So we're going to hunt the dogs and keep the 2 food, but we are gaining the condition tired. So there'll be a sticker sheet of conditions at every table. Take the tired one and stick it on your card. Brilliant. Done. Have a little look at the other ones you've got. Looks like a good haul. And then we are done. Everyone else goes round, deals with their events and their lovely loot. I mean, not looting, I'm sure it's perfectly legal gathering of supplies. After that's all done, we have a look whether anyone did anything with firearms, explosives or other loud noises that may have occurred with events. We will pretend that this team did have an event that caused something loud to go off, so that we can have a look at the police procedure. So if you did have a firefight, explosives, other loud noises, you may have attracted police attention. Flip a coin, there'll be some coins at each table. If you don't have a coin, come and find a facilitator and we'll get you one. Flip a coin on heads, follow the flow path. We're going to say, unluckily, they got heads. So, first choice is, do you have transport? You do have bicycles. You will gain tired if you do it. We're going to say, for this case, we want to try and get away from the police. Don't really want to get caught. Unfortunately, you're already tired, so it escalates to exposed. So we swap that card from tired to exposed. Not exposed, exhausted. That is what I meant. I said exhausted, not exposed. I unfortunately can no longer carry out any actions that make them tired now. They are too exhausted. Does the officer have transport? In this case, nope. The bobby is on foot and you run away and escape. Easy, nice and great. Let's pretend the police officer does have transport. So they catch up. Are you resisting arrest? You always get the choice of resisting arrest. If you don't resist, you are arrested. Let's say you are resisting. Are you armed? Yes, you are armed. Are you dangerously armed? Well, improvised weapons, I wouldn't say was dangerously armed. Dangerously armed tends to mean firearms, explosives, other things like that. The police officers have standard equipment of extendable batons and CS spray and other bits and bobs like that. So you are not dangerously armed. You become injured and arrested. You get a minor injury, so you're exhausted, and a minor injury now. Ouch. Also, your card limit drops to 6. So in taking this, all these lovely cards you've collected, we are now up to 7. So we would have to leave something behind. You can't take a haul back with you larger than your current card limit. But let's not worry about that right now, because you first or next place yourself in the arrested section over here for the police to deal with you when they get a chance. Now the police chief of the region, when he gets a chance, will come over and see what arrests the police have made. We can imagine these have been radioed in and they are giving oversight on whether or not to bring them in or not. So it's up to you to negotiate with the chief of police around whether or not your unit is arrested, or what happens. They might just be slapped on the wrist and let off, or they might be arrested for looting or other crimes. Or even resisting arrest. In this case, you could probably claim that you weren't doing any looting, you were out hunting. It's up to the police officer to decide what to do with you. They may confiscate some of your cards, they might arrest your person and take them back to one of the communities to have a trial. The police, though, are limited on how many people they can take, groups they can take back. If they're on foot here, they're only able to take one group back, whereas if they have vehicles, they might improve that limit. And that is the end of what might happen out at the scavenging table. Once you're done here, go and talk to other players. Also, once you're done here, you'll probably want to take your group plus all of your hard-won loot back. Let's pretend the officer was nice. Gave you a slap on the wrist but let you go back with everything. You would have to choose which one of these cards to discard. I'm imagining you're probably going to discard warm clothing. Maybe you're going to maybe you'll decide to leave the charcoal. You're alright for fuel at the moment. So you get to take all of those cards and your group back to your team table, and you should really put them in your storeroom. Any cards not equipped should go back to your storeroom as soon as possible. So that group goes home, all tired, exhausted rather, and injured. So let's have a quick look at the other standard tasks. Upkeep. Upkeep here, they're looking after the camp, making sure it's not deteriorating. These ones have a alcohol still attached. They've got a production equipment. This allows them to gain liquid fuel or alcohol. So they get to decide what they're going to make this turn during this point. We will say liquid fuel because they think they might be able to sell it. It might have higher value than alcohol. They also have a chef expert attached, and I would say narratively, when your facilitator comes back, when you are dealing with the mood of your camp, explain that the food, they might be on rations, but the food is very tasty and good, and they might help improve the mood out there. Obviously you've got a lot more food back this time. Very good. R&R, let's have a look at R&R. Let's pretend that they had, they were hungry last time, weren't they? We look at this handy flowchart to see how you might change or modify various negative conditions. So hungry, pay 1 food to get rid of it. We've got food now, we're probably confident, so we pay a food and we can remove the hungry sticker and again place it back on the sticker charts if you can, so we can reuse them. And that is upkeep, R&R and scavenging during the action phase. You will also, at some point during the action phase, or possibly during your planning phase, you will get back your special task. The facilitators will know tell you how it went. You might be unlucky and some of these groups might make it back between turns. It might be so far, or they might run into difficulties, but your facilitator will let you know. So that is that. The game is very freeform in terms of what actions you can do. So anything you can think of, you can try and do. Try and build new things, try and go new places, try and achieve new and exciting goals. Most important thing is to try and talk to other teams. And that is the Aftermath. Thank you very much. Welcome to the Aftermath. I'm Zane, and I'll be your guide through this video. If you're watching this, you've probably been cast as one of the survivors of the Aftermath. Aftermath is a mega game about tea, biscuits, and the apocalypse. There's been an near extinction event which wiped out 99 or possibly 99.9% of the population